Hello, Bridgewater, and welcome to the second episode of the Republican Forum. My name is Peter Linares. I've been a resident here for 25 years, and since we're a little bit short on time this evening because we have a lot of things to discuss, I just want to jump right into our agenda. So for this evening, I have a couple of quick updates, and as well as my friend here, Belinda, who's going to talk about Columbus Day. Before I get to that, I also wanted to mention that I do have a few Republican candidates here tonight that will discuss other issues as well as present who they are and what they are running for. And namely, for the candidates, I have Dasha Videra, who's running for Governor's Council. Rayla Campbell is coming. She was here last time. She's coming back. She's running for Secretary of State, and she will be discussing the questions on the ballot. And Jesse Brown, who's running in this district, District 9, for Congress. All right, so just want to jump into it quickly. So a couple of updates with regards to the town. There is going to be a special town election on January 7th, in case you don't already know that, since all the councilmen will have to be re-elected because of the redistricting that happened here in the town. So FYI on that. The town council is also debating whether to have retail marijuana shops here, and that question will be on the ballot as well on January 7th, not November 8th, for all of us to decide whether we want retail shops in town or not. My last issue I wanted to review before we get with the Republican candidates that are here tonight is to discuss what the town has done. They have actually renamed Columbus Day. They did a unanimous vote through the council. As far as I can tell, they didn't really ask the residents, but they decided to change Christopher Columbus Day to the Indigenous Peoples Day. And personally, I took offense to that because I love Christopher Columbus as it represents how America came to be today. And there's a lot more history behind that. So I brought my good friend here, Belinda, who is a bit of a history buff. And I'd like her to talk a bit about who Christopher Columbus is and give us a little bit of a historical background. But before you do that, Belinda, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Belinda Barrett. I am a 6-year resident of Bridgewater. I recently ran for school committee, and unsuccessfully, but that's okay because another voice was added.
Exactly.
And exactly. So this was a conversation you and I had. Me with the disclaimer of I'm not a history teacher, I'm not a history professor, although that was my original goal when going to college. I was going to be a history teacher because I love it. I was inspired by my teacher, Miss Munns, who we're still friends to this day, and I haven't been in school for 30 some odd years. And so, but still inspired by the history of this country and how amazing it is. And we were having that conversation, and you just kept saying, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And for me, I was sad and happy that I could tell you something all at the same time. But that also being said, we had a follow-up conversation of what I thought should happen instead of changing the name from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Instead of taking from one to give to another, we should create another one.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, I think, what
I would love that.
Yes, I think that's what kind of inspired you to go, hey, wait a minute, I think you got a good idea there. Christopher Columbus is a very, he's not a sinner, he's not a saint, as any man or woman of that time was. But I pulled some research just for you to take a look at it, and one of the most amazing documents that I was able to find was from an auction house called Gilder Lehman. Gilder Lehman was the auction house that sold the first letter that Columbus ever wrote to King Ferdinand. And in that letter, they translated it into English, and in that was some amazing knowledge that I am very surprised isn't shared widely.
And I'm assuming they're more of the facts of Columbus?
Yeah, it really led to his initial thinking of when he encountered the Native American people. And, I got some highlights here. I read someone, well, they wanted to enslave and murder and kill. And, I heard these things, and reading the document, couldn't put them both together. And so, no, his, if you don't mind, I'm gonna quote a piece from this. When he first arrived in Hispaniola, his first words to the natives were, "The monarchs of Castile have sent us not to subjugate you, but to teach you the true religion." He was a Catholic, and he asked the pontiff at the time, Pope Alexander, to send missionaries with him. So that was his true goal. And again, to the point of it was never his original intent to enslave. He actually, in his first letter, requests of King Ferdinand to send him slaves from Spain, because that was the time period, and countries did have slaves. But he, meaning Columbus, didn't have the intent to enslave the Native Americans. And
contrary to what we hear.
Contrary to what we have heard. That is not to say he did have a view of one of the tribes that he did encounter. Not sure of the particular pronunciation, but it was a native of a certain tribe called the Carbs, I believe is how you say it. He viewed them as combatants. And in viewing them as combatants, as anybody did at the time, he would enslave some of them, fight them, whatever the case may be. But yeah, so that's the sinner and the saint part of it.
Okay.
But he ultimately his goal was to spread Christianity. He wasn't a good administrator. He had no sights set on becoming king of, or president of, or prime minister of. He had no intention
of the new land
of any of that.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty fascinating read that I found. And to fast forward a little bit as to how Columbus Day ended up being, I didn't know. And I thought it was really great, and I did find some other things, but I'll kind of stick to what I pulled that was in a simplistic form. As we spoke of, most Columbus Day is Columbus Day because he was the most famous Italian.
Yep.
And he found America.
Right.
Which is huge. I mean, how do you belittle that? I mean, that's a magnitude. He found America. So
I also like to think of it, no matter where he landed, he found new land across the ocean.
Yes.
So wherever he landed, he still found the Americas.
And here's the really fun part. He was looking for China.
Yeah, I know.
He was looking for China. So little he thought the world went that way, it went that way, but neither here nor there. But so I started looking up just a bit, how did it develop? I mean, again, most Italian Americans, it's their day. Italian Americans' Day. They just put the name of the most famous guy
that represented the Italians.
Exactly. And so what I was able to find out, which, if you know anything about Tammany Hall, it surprised me that this is where it came from. The Columbian Order of New York, better known as Tammany Hall, held an event on October 12th, 1792 to commemorate the 300th anniversary of the historic landing. And it goes on to say, many Italian Americans observed Columbus Day as a celebration of their heritage and not of Columbus himself, which is what I had told you, and you didn't realize that at the time when I told you. It was first enshrined as a legal holiday in the United States through the lobbying of Angelo Noyes, a first-generation American in Denver. And it goes through. And this was the part that I didn't know that I thought was great, and that was for the 400th anniversary of Columbus' voyage in 1892, following a lynching in New Orleans where a mob had murdered 11 Italian immigrants. The President, Benjamin Harrison, declared Columbus Day as a one-time national holiday. Well, then it was later moved to
Always. Yeah.
And I thought that was really great. And then it made me sad to think, well, we've now taken Italian American heritage, when I don't think we should be taking, we should be giving.
Right.
And this was the part that I made my opinion known. I think we should let Columbus Day stand, but I think we absolutely need to have an Indigenous Peoples Day. And with that said, I think that it should be an entire week long where schools across the Commonwealth learn Native American culture, history, about their leaders. I can't tell you how many people I ask, do you know about the Code Talkers in World War II? And the Code Talkers? If it wasn't for the Navajo Indian
I've
Code
heard
Talkers,
that story, yes.
I think it might have gone completely differently.
Right.
Because the Japanese couldn't break the code.
Right.
They had broken many others, as had Germany, but they could not break the Native
American language, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that should be celebrated.
Yeah. I was also thinking, in order to help teach the town, was also to have something on the common.
Absolutely.
For that full week.
Yeah,
To represent,
yeah.
because people will ask questions, what is that? What, and then probably give people some interest and actually read into it and learn more about it.
Yeah.
Where, because over time things get forgotten. So let's bring it back to the forefront.
And my daughter is 12 and in the school system, and when it comes around Thanksgiving, that seems to be when we talk about our Native American history, and it's about that big.
Yeah.
And while I don't have a dog in the fight for the Italian heritage, I do have Native American.
Oh, great.
So for me, the thought of having the opportunity to teach our kids more about Native American history, I think you can't deny that.
Great. So any final words? We're just about out of time.
No, I would encourage anybody and everybody to do some research and learn. As you asked. You
and maybe
requested.
persuade the town to go the town council to go the other way.
That would be fantastic.
Because I think the town should be able to vote on something like that, or first learn about it, get educated, then do some sort of action to change it back.
Exactly. And if they're really serious about it, change it back, and then let's historically research and find a day that is important to the Native American culture, and let's go with it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Belinda.
You're welcome.
All right. Everyone, I wanted to introduce Dasha Videra here, who's running for Governor's Council here in Massachusetts. She's first up for our candidates tonight, and welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so her district actually includes Bridgewater, so I wanted to make sure she got introduced and make sure our Bridgewater residents knows who she is. So I know a few things about Dasha. According to her website, I know that she's passionate about parental rights, medical freedom, criminal justice, education, and small businesses. And another interesting note, because I know Dasha tried very hard to get onto the ballot, so she had to obtain at least 1,000 write-ins to get onto the ballot, and she achieved that, so congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so Dasha, here's a couple of questions for you, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit. So first off, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what a governor council actually does.
Okay, so my name is Dasha Videra. I am running for Governor's Council, District 2. I chose to run for Governor's Council because I am a very passionate mom who definitely believes that the world is a little shaky right now. So I ran for school committee in the town of Franklin in the fall, and I ran on a platform of medical, spiritual, and educational freedom in hopes of trying to diversify the school committee. I am a homeschool mom of 4. I am a wife. I am a daughter. I actually went to Bridgewater State University, so it's wonderful to be back in this area. My background is in psychology. My graduate degree is in organizational leadership. So I used to work in HR management, and now I have been leading a local co-op for the last 7 or so years in the town of Franklin.
All right. Can you tell us a bit about what the Governor Council actually does?
Sure. So the Governor's Council, the intent behind it is that it's supposed to appoint the judges in the state of Massachusetts, along with clerk magistrates and the justice of the peace.
Oh.
There is also the opportunity, too, for commuting sentences and pardons. So in no way would I say that that's the majority part of it. However, I do think, in some interviews that I have gone on, that is a focal point that seems to be of topic. As of right now, my focus point, especially when it comes to communicating on the importance of Governor's Council, is to bring awareness that this is a very critical role, a very old role. It's been here since 1629.
Oh, wow.
Very few people even know about it, and then it obviously has a very critical situation where they appoint the judges in the state of Massachusetts.
I think that's pretty important.
It is, and with the bumpy roads that we're kind of in right now, once you do become appointed as a judge, you are in that seat until you're 70 years old. So considering the fact of where we are, climate-wise as in where the kids are in the district, I just think that it's a really critical time to get the right people in these positions, so then that way they can carry out a true legacy that was in the intent of the Massachusetts.
And so is that one of your hot topics or things that you're going to strive for once you get into office? Are there others topics too that you'd like to
I
do?
would say one of the most important topics is, the word diversity keeps getting thrown around significantly, and as of right now, the council is made up of lawyers. So many conversations that I've had with people that are aware of the council, they truly and genuinely believe that the position should only be held by a lawyer. However, with that said, in no way is that actually one of the requirements. So I'm looking to really diversify the council significantly with a background in psychology, mental health awareness, and again, HR management with organizational leadership skills, in hopes of bringing a we the people voice, but with a background that will definitely really assess the appropriate people that are qualified for the position and the morale of the state.
So you're going to bring some climate change to them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a nice way of putting that.
So what kind of judges are you looking to appoint from your perspective?
I think right now, it would be really beneficial to have judges that are definitely acclimated in their community. And if they are more aware of what's going on a community basis, to really engage on what typical people are going
do you mean
through.
Their own local communities, or do you mean the community as in Massachusetts?
Both.
Okay.
Absolutely, because the morale of the state right now is in pure disarray. And where we're kind of going with education and just parental rights, it's shaky. So, to secure the right appropriate judge that's really going to uphold the Constitution and respect parental rights is a critical formation for me to say, yes, this can be a positive job for me, but never mind for the parents that are in the state of Massachusetts.
So you would be probably interviewing those judges with those types of questions.
I would, and I want to make sure too that, especially if the case is in regards to children, if they are aware of children, even with the highs and lows that are even happening with children and families on today's level.
So why would someone vote for you?
Going back to that word diversity,
Okay.
I definitely think one of the most important components right now is that I think a lot of words are meaning certain things to certain people, when in reality, I do believe that if we have a council of 8 seats and if majority of them are lawyers, and the question to me is that really diversified? So in hopes of bringing a different outlook, especially with an understanding of psychology, just given the morale of where we are, and to choosing to homeschool my children, where are the parental rights? So I'm really hoping to bring forth a different outlook on education, a different outlook on respecting parental rights and allowing families to raise their children that they see fit and best.
Very good.
Yeah.
So really, it seems like you bring a lot of your own personal experiences of what you've actually experienced in this state and want to actually help correct some of that potentially when you get in there.
Yes, and too,
Or influence it anyway.
Well, a lot of people believe that you have to be a lawyer in order to run on some levels with government, and I think that's kind of wrong.
Yeah.
If we really want to honor a we the people voice, then it really needs to have someone who has enough courage and enthusiasm to run as a we the people, to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to bring my life experiences, I'm going to bring my education, and I'm going to bring that forward and run for a position that I think most people have either A, no idea what Governor's Council is, or B, assume that it can only be qualified by lawyers.
It's really bringing someone who's really in touch with, because you have experienced all this, so if you can get them to be at that same level, or bring some sort of I don't know, common ground, I guess, because if they're all not paying attention to the community, that wouldn't be good. But if you could help pull them in that direction, that would be much better.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. Geez, I don't know what else I'd like to ask you here. I ran out of my questions. Anything else you'd like to discuss before we let you go and move on to the next candidate?
Sure. I think for now, one of the greatest things is that if people can get more involved in their local races and really support their local candidates, that is probably one of the greatest assets that can be available to us. So running for school committee in the town of Franklin definitely helped bring some awareness, because again, I ran on
you because you did that, right?
Yeah, but I ran, on a platform of medical, spiritual, and educational freedom, and many people were thankful significantly that I was courageous enough to run on a platform along those lines. But too, a lot of people were very upset, which was very strange.
Upset in a bad way towards you?
Oh yeah, because in the retrospect of the word freedom, I think that word has been mislabeled and just defined differently than what it was really intended for. And if we go back to those three concepts of medical, spiritual, and education, I just think that those are three critical areas that need some attention, but balance to them. So I do think that if we can get some local candidates that are willing to have a loud voice, some strong boundaries in some sense, and then get out there, connect with the community, shake some hands, meet some people, do some door knocking, get your platform out there, I do think that it's inspiring for other local citizens to actually say, hey, maybe I can do that, or hey, maybe I can get involved and I can help. So from running from school committee, I actually watched a huge movement organically come forward that has prepared me for now.
All right, Dasha, now that we've heard from you today, how about you tell the audience how they can get a hold of you or help you out and maybe donate?
Sure. So you can find me on Facebook. I am on Dasha Vadera for Governor's Council on Facebook, and I am also on Instagram at votedasha.com, and you can also find me on my website, which is votefordasha.com as well too. There is a donate button. We are accepting checks and through PayPal, so that way it can be a little bit more user-friendly.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us tonight. I very much appreciate you coming down here, and because you're from Franklin, right?
Yes.
Yes. So thank you for coming all this way to participate in our show.
Absolutely. Thank you,
All right.
Peter.
You're welcome. Dasha.
Thank you.
All right, our second candidate tonight, we have Rayla Campbell back. Thank you, Rayla, for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. As we all should know, Rayla is running for Secretary of State, so please vote for her on November 8th. So, Rayla, what I know last time we talked a lot about you and what you are running for and a bit about your platform, but I'm curious to know how your campaign's going.
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me on again, Peter. This is an incredible opportunity to get out there and get our voices to Bridgewater. But it is going amazing. We've been doing a lot of stuff, a lot of traction. I'm traveling, of course, across the entire state, so we're very, very busy. But the energy and the support has been incredible, and I just feel completely blessed to be in this situation right now.
Good, because I've seen, basically what I see you doing a lot of the grassroots, you're constantly out there. I know I helped you out quite a few times, so it's really good to see that you are very persistent, to make sure your name is known and people know what your face looks like and everything. I think it's great. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right, so tonight what I'd like to talk to you about are, I'm sure you have read through the questions that are going to be on the ballot November 8th. So I thought there were a few things we could talk about, and one is this $1 million tax. And I did receive this thing in the mail today. It's Angela D'Amelio, and it's the picture of him with Baker on the back of it. But it literally says at the bottom, due to prudent fiscal management, Massachusetts taxpayers will receive a 13% rebate on their 2021 taxes later this year. So I found that very interesting to think that we're actually getting money back from the government because they have too much in the general funds because of a 1986 law, so we have to get that money back. Yet they want to tax our millionaires. And I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, this is a tax on all of the citizens in Massachusetts. They want to label it as a millionaire's tax, but we know that that is not right. We know that it is going to attack all of our small businesses. So what they're saying is no matter what, if you're a small mom and pop, not taking into account how much you have to pay your employees and how much you have to pay for insurance, if your small business grosses over $1 million a year, you're going to get taxed more. Now, you may only be taking home about $25,000 of that after you pay off all your employees and all your bills. So now you're only making $25,000 and you're going to have to get taxed even higher at a higher rate. You're not going to be able to survive. You're not going to be able to have a business. That's what it is. It's an attack on our small businesses and our everyday hardworking Americans. So how I've been basically telling everybody is, if the Democrats want it, it's bad for you, so vote no.
Well, I think I also read in here, because everyone received this in the mail, the information for the voting and the ballot questions. And I was reading something about this even affects, like, if you sell your grandparents or your house and you get an inheritance tax
Right.
off that, it even affects that.
Yeah.
There's more of, because if it's over $1 million, you're going to be taxed more than I think there's already a tax on it.
And with the prices of housing and everything right now, and especially in Massachusetts, depending on where you are, so many properties are worth over $1 million.
Yeah, so it's easy to get up to that million. So basically, they'll be bringing in a lot more tax that, from what I can tell, they don't really need.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's exactly what they want, just to take away from the everyday hardworking American. And we've seen that happening for so long, and that's why we've got to stand up and put our foot down and vote no.
Yeah, because they say it's supposed to help, education, transportation, but there's really no accountability once it gets into the coffers as to how we're going to see what it does.
Yes, and what is it going to help?
Yeah.
They're not focused on test scores and anything. They're just throwing money, but we don't see any results.
Exactly. All right. Well, so question 2 is about dental insurance. To me, one comment I heard out there, they said it sounds more like socializing dental insurance.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And me, one of my first jobs was for Delta Dental of Massachusetts. It's really where I got off the ground. I worked there
I
for
had that
10
one time
years.
too, yeah.
Yeah, it's the number one in Massachusetts, but they're trying to make it kind of like medical insurance. Because now look, when you have a deductible on your medical insurance, some people have to pay out of pocket $1,000 before anything is even covered.
Right, yeah.
That is almost like the same thing that they're wanting to do with the dental. And dental is such a smaller market for the dental insurance, and not everybody actually opts into having dental insurance. Some people do pay out of pocket themselves. But what they're trying to do is they're going to make it harder for the dentist to actually keep his business up and running when the cost of the materials and everything, they want to change the way that the benefits are given out, when it's actually directly with your employer and the insurance company.
Right
It's
now.
that's how it should be.
Right.
So the employer should be advocating for their workers and what they want, all of their employees, and what they want for insurance and what should be covered. We see it happen with Boston Teachers Union. They cover everything almost at 100%, and then any major work, they cover it at 80%. So that's a negotiation that is done with the head. So that's something that we should be pushing for, is to have your employees should be asking for better quality insurance and bringing that back to the negotiation table with the insurance company, instead of trying to now get in and regulate dental insurance so that it's like medical, and they're almost trying to make it so you can't charge a certain amount, like what they do with Mass Health, in which the dentist cannot recoup any money to pay for all of the materials.
So this really comes down to, anytime I see a regulation on dental insurance, which question 2 is, it's really about government control.
Yes.
And personally, that's not what I like. I like to negotiate, because that's what we do as Americans, right? We talk to our employees or the insurance companies, and I would think as a business, you would want to talk to the employees, see what the need is, right?
Right.
And then you go to the insurance companies and negotiate with them and figure out what deal you can work out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they do offer a plan. Delta does offer a plan out there. They have their own private plans for people if they do want to go in and buy their own insurance. They have a whole different bunch of plans that you as an individual can purchase as well based on your needs, what you need. Dental health is part of overall health, and we need to be making sure that people have access to dental care and to dental coverage, but making it government and getting really involved in changing the way that the dental insurance is working, it's going to hurt everybody, and we're going to put dentists out of business.
Sounds
It's gonna
messy,
help
too.
your health. It
Yeah.
is messy.
And I like 'cause some of the stuff I read here is like the commissioner. So the commissioner of this dental, so basically we're going to have someone else hired in government that's going to be the commissioner to oversee all of this dental insurance. And it says the commissioner shall disapprove any proposed changes to base rates that are excessive, inadequate, or unreasonable in relation to the benefit charge. So again, that's a regulation, so we're going to have someone else, which means the company probably has to hire someone to negotiate with this person. So it's
Right.
just more jobs that are unnecessary, and it's going to cost people more money. And then we have one person in government that's going to make all the decisions.
Yeah, and is this person a dentist, or or do they?
Right.
Are they, yeah.
What are the qualifications?
Yeah, exactly. Do they know how to read an X-ray? Do they understand the process that you have to go through with a dental procedure? Like, come on. You can't have this one person coming in who has probably, and it's going to be someone with no background in dental at all, because that's what they do. It'll be like Hunter.
So I guess the vote on this is?
Again, if the Democrats want it, it's bad for you. Vote no.
All right. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so this one is about expanded availability. They use the word expanded, but it doesn't sound that way.
No.
Expanded availability of licenses for the sale of alcohol beverages. Now, again, just to sum this up, the way I view this is it sounds like more government control.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to talk a bit about what your views are on this one?
I'm sitting here and I'm going, okay, so you want to expand giving out licenses. And when you're looking at it, they like to put that word salad in there where it's like, oh, no, we're not doing that. We actually want to limit the number. But what was the only things that actually didn't close during COVID? Liquor stores didn't close at all.
Sure.
And in fact,
Sorry, they
I
needed it.
think more opened up. Yeah, we all needed it, but I'm like, more opened up. And it's like, how many more do you need? I look at my old town, and just across the street from what you look out from my street, there's 3 liquor stores in a 1 block. Why do you need 3 in 1 block? And I can see all 3? That's a little excessive. And again, here the government, and they're coming in, and a lot of them own these properties.
Okay.
And they have stake in these licenses. And that was a case in my old town. It's one of the elected officials gave himself a liquor license, gave his buddy a liquor license, owned another property, and got a liquor license for that. How many liquor licenses do you need?
I don't know.
And again, that's one person monopolizing.
Okay.
So that's what this is.
All right.
Again, Democrats want it. It's bad for you. Vote no.
All right. All right.
Oh, look, we're missing something.
Oh, what is question 4?
Oh!
Actually, I think I had a note on, one more note on the alcohol licenses, because it actually says something about, saw a comment out there where someone said the alcohol laws that are in place today, they actually need to be overhauled because they're very complex. So to add this on top of it makes it even worse. Yeah, so I found that interesting, and I don't disbelieve, I believe that is true.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so now as we move on, there seems to be a question missing out of this ballot, which we all know is question 4.
Correct.
And I think we're all pretty passionate about that, and the more people I talk to seem to be rather dismayed by all of it, because they don't want that, because many of these people that I speak to have family that have come from overseas, and those individuals that do come over here because they do have sponsors and such,
Right.
it takes them forever to get a license because
Yeah.
they need a social security number and all these other things
And
that
they
they have
do
to
it
go
the
through.
right way.
Right, and they're fully vetted immigrants,
Yep.
and therefore they eventually can get the license
Right.
because they go through the ropes and understand what they need to do to get it done. So this particular question is more about, okay, well, you here, give me whatever picture you want, and I'll give you a license.
Right.
And then there's a problem with that, from what I understand.
Yes, because you automatically get registered to vote. Now you'll hear the other side saying, no, there's a box you check to opt out. How many people check a box to opt out of something? No, I'm going to check this box to not get this because I don't want this, so I got to make sure I check the box because I don't want it.
Well, I found
No.
out if this stays in place on January 1st, according to the town clerk, that box is, all of it's going away. If you've signed the thing, it's just
You're
opted
automatic.
in.
Yes.
It's not, so you don't even have an option to opt out.
And that's the thing, is it's already an opt-in process. And again, that's taken away from your civic duty and you actually going and registering. Why is the RMV have any say in registering people in an election? Those are the laws that the left has put in place in order to take away from the everyday hardworking American citizen. Now look at, it's missing here out of the booklet. Yet when they ran their ad, they said that this booklet is for the voters to understand, the ones that don't have access. Well, their exact words were black and brown and poor people who don't have access to the internet to know the questions that are on the ballot coming up in November.
That's wrong.
Yet in the booklet, we're missing question 4, and it says you should go to the internet to find out what question. But they don't have access to the internet,
Little
so how are they
contradictory,
going to
huh?
do that? Exactly. And then they also said they ran out of paper. But you just looked at the last page in that, and
got
it's
room.
blank.
I don't think
blank.
it's that hard to flip another couple of pages
Yeah,
in here. It's
why do you
just
have to have a
stapled.
voter checklist?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to vote, and everybody who knows how to vote, and that's why we need to show our ID. That's another thing. They're giving illegals driver's license. That's an ID. But then they said asking black people for an ID is racist.
Right.
This is just, it's right
It's
in your
wrong.
face. The Democrats want it, it's bad for you. Vote no.
All right. Thank you, Rayla. So before I let you go, and thank you for reviewing those, that was kind of fun. I like that. So why don't you let the audience know again how they can help you, donate, what your page is, and then we will say goodbye.
Absolutely.
Till next time.
Till next time. So people can get involved with me. They can go to raylaforma.com. That's RAYLAFORMA.com. Also follow me on Facebook. It's Rayla Campbell from Massachusetts. We are growing strong. You can get on our email list through my website, as much as volunteer and donate, because we are going to be dropping very soon a new ad, and we're hoping to raise enough money to get on TV. Besides just public TV, we need to really be getting out to all of Massachusetts, and the biggest way to do that is on the local channels, but they like to kind of silence us and make it very difficult. So everything that we're doing right now is word of mouth, boots on the ground, but that's also the best way for people to know who you
Because you're
are.
actually in touch with the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
It's
All right.
incredible. Thank you so
All right.
much, Peter.
Thank you, Rayla, and good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
.76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone.
All right. So last up tonight, we have Jesse Brown. And Jesse, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Jesse's running for Congress. He is in District 9 here in Massachusetts, which includes the town of Bridgewater. He's going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So Jesse is, I know a little bit about him because I did a little research on you, but I've met you plenty of times. But a couple of cool things: that he is a veteran. He was in the U.S. Marine Corps. He currently lives in Plymouth. And actually, he also grew up in Taunton, which is my hometown, so I'm pretty proud of that. That's great. So Jesse, first off, I'd like to thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I have a daughter that's actually in the Air Force National Guard. So
Thank you for her service.
Oh, you're welcome. So why don't we talk a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your background before we get into some of the issues that Congress deals with.
Absolutely. So as you stated, that my name is Jesse Brown, running for the Massachusetts 9th Congressional District. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran, small business owner. I actually own one of the largest veteran-owned businesses in the state of Massachusetts, and also a co-founder of a nonprofit that helps veterans in need, which you've helped about 1,000 veterans in a multitude of different ways, from wheelchair ramps to modifying bathrooms to actually getting suits for veterans for their job, for job placement. I'm also a father of a 15-year-old little girl. She'll always be my little girl, even though she's a young woman now. So she's growing, and she's been on this campaign trail with me now. We've been doing this for 18 months. So my birthday was just on Saturday, so I just
happy
turned
birthday.
45, but I started this campaign, I was 43. So we've been running for 2 years.
Time flies.
It's a long race, but we've made tremendous strides. And when we first started this race, as you just alluded to in the beginning, when we first started this race, the redistricting wasn't complete yet. They were talking about it. And we did not know Bridgewater was going to be in it. We didn't know the other towns. We didn't know what was going to happen. So
So
just
did they add towns to your district, or there's
so what ended up happening, just in a nutshell, they took away Fall River from the 9th district, and we added Cohasset, Scituate, Bridgewater, and precincts 1 and 2 in Rainham. So that is the new 9th district. So what it comprises of right now is pretty much majority of the South Shore, South Coast, and all the Cape and the islands. About 788,000 people. It's a big district. I mean, you got to say it goes from Cohasset to P-Town. You're looking at 2.5 hour drive. So it's a lot of ground to cover out there, but we've been doing it. We've been to every single town.
788,000 people
700
in your district?
In this district,
Oh,
correct.
wow.
And it was around 733 until they redistricted because of the population growth. They had to add 50,000 more people.
Oh, okay.
So it's a large district, very diverse district. Almost 80% of it is coastline at the same time, but it's very diverse. We have farmland to a lot of fishermen to the only city in there is New Bedford down there. So it's a
So you have New Bedford?
we
there.
do have New
Okay,
Bedford,
okay.
yes.
All right.
So down there, New Bedford, Fairhaven, Dartmouth, and Acushnet, and then you work your
Good
way up.
restaurants down there.
Those are some great restaurants. I was just down there last night at a restaurant called Inner Bay. Tremendous Portuguese food down there, spectacular. So I love Portuguese food. Had octopus, so I have to go down there, and I get octopus all the time. Yes, So I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old.
Okay.
I got out when I was 21, and I was honorably discharged as a sergeant. After that, I started climbing cell towers, building. I started from the ground level. People always ask me, what kind of Republican are you? I always say I'm a blue-collar Republican. And what that means is that I'm there for the person that works 9 to 5, 5 to 9. I'm there for the first, second, third shift, parents, families, the working class aspect. We don't have that anymore on both sides, especially the Democrats have lost that working class contingency. They're not out there for you anymore or the majority of the people that they represent. They're in a bubble, they're isolated, they've been in office too long.
We need term limits.
We definitely need term limits. I'm a huge advocate of term limits.
Good.
We can talk about that in a little bit. So in 2007, I started my own business, and we've grown from myself and my business partner, and we've grown to a large company, but actually to, like I stated earlier, to one of the largest veteran-owned businesses in the state. And then I started the nonprofit in 2013. So that's my rise here to running for Congress and hoping to represent you and everybody out there.
Cool. All right, so let's get down to some of the hot issues that we hear all the time in the news.
Of course.
So where is your stance? Well, I'm sure this is, I think you mentioned to me, like securing the border, so let's start with that one.
Oh, securing the border is extremely important. When I was in the Marine Corps, we actually worked with the Border Patrol on that aspect. So we've seen those issues, what they are. The issues that were happening 23 years ago are the same issues that are happening today. They're just amplified tremendously. So back then, from what I remember, it was a bipartisan issue. It's not a bipartisan issue anymore. It's a very divided issue when it comes down to the border. But at the end of the day, it can't be a divided issue. It has to be a unified issue because we're protecting Americans and protecting the sovereignty of the United States. And if we don't have a secure border, from a physical barrier to more Border Patrol agents, and to have people, if they want to come here, legal immigration, I'm completely fine with that, but it has to be done in a manner, not 240,000 people coming across the border every month. What do you do with them? And now put that in perspective, that's pretty much the population of New Bedford and Fall River coming over the border
Every day? Every month?
every month.
Yeah.
Every
That's
month.
a lot of people.
So
And where do you put all
where do you
those
put them
people?
all?
Yeah.
So just you got to imagine those two cities, the infrastructure
fill 'em
that's
up.
there. That's every month. You have to build those two cities just for the infrastructure to support the people that are coming over every single month. So for the sheer fact of that alone, we have to have a secure border. And it's the safety. I mean, we have a drug crisis, especially the Cape in this area is huge with the opioid
relatives on the
issue.
Cape,
And the opioid issue in 2021, we had a 9% increase of deaths That's no, but
9%?
9% increase of deaths in this district, right? In Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
with the most of it coming down in this area right here in this district, primarily the Cape and the South Coast. So where does it all stem from? It stems from the border. And almost 85% of all illicit drugs come across the southwest border, and it went anywhere between 24 to 36 hours. That could be anywhere in the United States. So we need to stop it there. I use this example. I try to simplify everything. It's a Marine Corps thing. You keep it simple.
simple, yeah.
But I use this analogy that if you have a leak in your house, multiple leaks, you go down to the water main and you shut it off.
Yeah.
We need to shut off the spigot down, and that's the border, and then clean everything up. Now, once everything is stopped and does drugs, it brings crime. I'm a big law enforcement person. I can say that I was endorsed by the Massachusetts State Police. We're the first federal candidate and the only federal candidate right now to be endorsed by the state police, and from what we've seen over the last 25 years. And also we just got the endorsement of the National Trooper Coalition, which comprises of all the state troopers across the nation. We are working on a few more endorsements, but we're a huge advocate of our law enforcement and public safety. That's where it all stems from. You have to support your law enforcement to combat the issues, especially the drug issues. Once the drug issues are under control, you have to rehabilitate and get people the help that's needed out there.
And get them to work.
You have to, but they have to be helped first.
Yes.
They have to 100% have to be helped, and then they have to get back into the workforce.
Yes.
And it's a process, and
Yeah,
it can be
for
done.
sure.
It has been done, but it has to be done at a large level, and we need people down in Congress that will advocate for those proper issues that are affecting this district. And I just don't, my opponent has voted with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time. With that, that's not representing this district.
No.
And as you stated earlier, I'm a huge advocate of term limits. My opponent has been in elected office for 45 years. He's been in office longer than I've been alive. And just that alone should have you, if you believe in term limits,
Let's replace them.
you want to be replaced.
Right.
But what
New blood.
what I come to is being in elected office for 45 years, he's not looking out for your best interest anymore. You're not in office that long unless you're just looking out for your best interest first.
Your own, yeah.
And that's the big reason I'm
It
running.
always should be about the people.
It is, and that's, so when people ask me why I'm running for you, I'm running for you, I'm running for everybody out there. I'm not running for my best interests, I'm running for your best interests and the people that I'll represent.
Yeah, I've never understood what the current administration is doing with the border, because as far as I know, the U.S. Constitution, it says that the federal government is supposed to secure our border. It's also supposed to protect our rights and collect tariffs, and they do everything else but.
Of course.
Yeah, so I really don't understand what's going on down there, but I'm looking for a change. So hopefully you can do that for all of us, and for the better of
For the better.
US.
It's for everybody, and
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to. That's an issue to where it's a national issue. That's not a localized issue on the federal level. That's a federal national issue. It's part of national security.
Right.
That's everybody across. So we all have to work together on that, and that's where you need people in Congress that will work together to get that accomplished.
All right. Well, let's move on to what's your take on the inflation and what's going on today?
Well, do you buy real estate? Do you own
do.
real estate? So I use this little analogy. When you buy real estate, you're looking for location, location, location. And if you remember anything tonight, when you go to the voting booth on November 8th, remember inflation, inflation, inflation. It's not going down.
Yeah, I think I saw a poll about that. Was one of the top things.
It is the top
like
thing
top
right
3,
now.
I think.
So what just came out today is inflation across the board is up about 8. It's 8.3, pretty much steady over the last 12 months.
Right.
But food prices
Yes.
are up solid 13%,
Yeah.
completely
Some
across the
other
board.
products are like
30.
20. Yeah.
Eggs are up 30% right now. So if you're looking back just to your own family and bringing it down to very basics, you don't have enough money to even buy the basic necessities to survive right now. You're deciding, well, I have to buy gas, which is going back up right now. Now I have a diesel truck, and I've seen it. I've looked back when I was filling up last March, it was $5.19 a gallon. The last I just checked, it was $5.39. Never mind, it's been up to almost $6.50.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it went down a little bit, but it's creeping back up. Now, it's not going back down. We need to unleash American energy independence. We're sitting on everything right here. We have plenty of oil, we have plenty of natural gas, we have all the fossil fuels. We have to utilize those, but at the same time, up our renewable energies. So I'm for renewable energies, but in a way of not taking away what we already have, not at the
It should be a
not at the detriment to your pocketbook and to everybody's
It should
pocketbook.
be a
We don't need to.
It should be a gradual change. You can't just flip a
100%.
switch.
And
I feel like they're trying to flip a switch. I'm like, it's not going to work.
It won't work. It doesn't work. We see it right
Yeah.
now. And the thing is, what I try to keep sticking in people's heads is that we don't need to do it. We can be the largest oil producer in the world.
Right.
If we can export it. We can, the energy crisis
I
in
mean-
Europe, we can export LNG over to them if we need
The
to.
U.S. could actually make money.
They could.
Unbelievable. All right, so hopefully, that was another issue we can work on. Well, you can work on when you
Yes.
get in there. I'd love to see that. So, well, that sort of brought us into any more on energy, because you sort of put energy along with inflation there. Is there anything else on energy you'd like to?
Yeah, like I said, you just have to unleash it.
Okay.
We have it here. It got retracted obviously during COVID because of the supply issue, but we need it right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues, again, if we can do it local with the LNG pipelines.
Yeah.
We have it here.
Yeah.
And we just closed down, especially in my district right here, we just closed down the nuclear power plant. That almost
Oh,
was,
Plymouth there?
that was about 19%. Now, where we go to energy, we always hear in the news, we want to change everything to electric right now. And that's fine and dandy if you want to do it, that's great. But the infrastructure to support that is not there right now. So if you're building a house, you're not painting it first. And everything we hear right now in the news, they're putting the color paint up to make it look good. That's what they're doing. So the infrastructure, that you look in the house, you want to get all your plumbing, your electrical,
Right.
everything behind the walls done
Done
properly.
first, yeah.
That's the infrastructure. The infrastructure will just not support it. We'll have rolling brownouts with blackouts on a constant basis in this transition if we don't do it properly, but we have to fix that infrastructure first. So we've passed an infrastructure bill. The money's there to do this stuff, not just the roads, but also any of these energy initiatives that we need to do. The money's there, it just has to be allocated correctly. Don't build the solar field until the infrastructure's there to support it. Don't build the windmills until the infrastructure is there to support it.
So it's basically start from the bottom up before we get to the top, right?
Build the foundation
Exactly.
and work up.
So what about your take on economy and jobs?
Well, right now I do a program where I do a real jobs tour.
Okay.
And I've been doing this for about 18 months. Some weeks a little bit more, some weeks a little bit less, but it's the same thing I constantly hear with the businesses. So in the real jobs tour, I go work with them for about 4 hours and listen to their issues or the positives of
Right.
what they have. And there's positive and negatives, but the biggest negative right now is worker shortage. And there's a lot of businesses still
The
closing.
labor, right?
The labor.
Especially on the Cape. I mean,
It's
this-
everywhere. It's
yeah.
across the board.
Well,
And
true.
it's not just private sector, it's municipalities also. Like you said, our public safety, I'll just give you an example. I was at the police recruit graduation. And New Bedford, I'll just use this as an example, New Bedford had 3 graduates. They had 3 new people join the force from that graduating class. They need 30. So
Wow.
just to sustain what they have for population and the issues they deal with. So when you're dealing with a worker shortage, you're dealing with burnout, you're dealing with worker retention, you're dealing with mental health issues if you're
Yeah.
overworking people on a
Yeah.
constant basis, especially in a high stressful environment. But if you just go down to even restaurants, you can't sustain that, and you see a lot of restaurants that they're overworked. Everybody that's in there.
Or you go there and they have a whole section
Or they
of the
shut
restaurant
down.
closed.
They
because
shut down
can't serve the
early.
people in
They're
there.
not there Monday, Tuesday.
Right.
They're open till 10. They close at 8.
Right.
Not any fault of their own.
Right. They
It's not.
just
They're
can't get the
trying.
labor.
They can't get the labor out there. And right now, I do feel that there's an artificial. Even though the unemployment rate is low, it's an artificial number because there are a lot of people that just aren't looking for work right now. So they're taking out
And
of
why
that
do you think that
equation.
is?
I've tried to do research on it and see, but the biggest thing what you really see is maybe they created a savings from COVID. Maybe they were at home. They don't want to go back to the workforce because they can work from home and make the same money. Maybe they've changed their lifestyle where they were making money prior. Who knows? I've tried
I
to
think
figure
some
this
people
out.
also try to look for, like, if they were a waiter or a waitress, they found other jobs that probably brought them to their house. Now they're not going to go back if they have another job. You know, things like that
Correct.
probably happen too. Yeah.
But it comes down to money. Maybe they were making more money doing that,
right.
or there's so many dynamics to it. I mean, there's 2 jobs right now. There's 2 people for every job available right now. So we don't have a short. We're not getting the people out into the workforce.
Yeah, that's what I think. I'm like, all these people couldn't have just disappeared. They have to be somewhere.
So they're there.
Yeah.
Like I said, there are 2 people for every job
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I heard you. I was just
So
curious.
that statistic is crazy, right?
Right. Well, you got a couple of minutes left. What are some of your other hot issues you plan on working on when you get into Congress?
Yeah, one of the big things that being a veteran, are the veterans issues.
Oh,
That
yes.
is a huge thing for
Yeah,
me. It's a personal thing for me also, because I've been even when I get to Congress, I'm already working on that.
Okay.
So it's not something where I'm saying I'm going to do this. I'm already doing it with my nonprofit because I've seen the issues, especially when I got out of the service. I've seen the issues.
So
and
what
they've-
are some of the big issues with
Well, right, it's
veterans?
homelessness.
Oh,
right
for
now is number
sure.
one. A third of homelessness
Yeah.
right now are veterans. Mental health issues are still there. I mean, the suicide rate is about 22 to 24 veterans every single day are committing suicide. So that's another big issue where they need that mental help, and that stems from a lot from the VA. You know, is to get the VA benefits out as quickly and as efficient as needed to our veterans serving. A lot of this is bureaucracy. I deal with it on a personal basis. I know how long it takes to get something. You're working against the VA to get your benefits. You'll eventually get them, but they keep denying you. They're a large insurance company at the end of the day, the VA. So it has to be streamlined. It's gotten better. I will say it has gotten better.
Okay.
Massachusetts as a state, and I don't want to deal with the state, but Massachusetts as a state is one of the best states in the nation for veterans issues. It's just a matter of getting those services to you with the bureaucracy that's there. It's all the paperwork and waiting and being denied, even becoming a veteran-owned business, which can benefit a lot of business and a lot of entrepreneurs. You're denied, time and time again. My personal example is that I was denied multiple times just because of a word or paperwork. And I've already been a federally certified veteran-owned business for 7 years.
And they can't figure that out.
And they said, well, we changed our rules.
Yeah, great.
And you have to hire lawyers to get this. I mean, that's what's happening now. You're hiring lawyers to get you your benefits, what you
costing you
deserve.
money.
It costs money, but it's more of a hassle, and a lot of people don't want to deal with that hassle. So you got to streamline it, make it easier for our veterans. That's the easier part. The bigger issue, like I said, is combating that homelessness. That's across the board, not just Massachusetts.
just
That's
awful.
across the nation. And the homelessness deals from substance abuse issues, drug use, PTSD. So they need to get the help from that also, and that stems in the VA. So that's a near and dear thing to me right there is veterans issues. I mean, and again, strong advocate for our law enforcement and public safety. That's top of the list also. There's a lot of things top of the list, but that's, I mean, I have family that's law enforcement, so I understand it's kind of the same thing as the military. It goes hand in hand. You're there protecting the people, and we need to make sure we give them all the resources, whether it's our law enforcement or our veterans that come back, even while they're in, that we give them the resources to do their jobs properly. But when they're finished with their service, that we have to make sure we take care of them, because it is a stressful environment that they're in.
Yeah, even some of the issues you just mentioned there, it just seems like a lot of them just need help and to get those benefits, and also whatever might be going on in their head and things that they can't seem to get through, to get them through that mental issue, and just so they can move on with their lives. It
Correct.
just seems terrible.
You want them to have their independence.
Yeah.
They don't want to rely. Nobody wants to rely on anybody.
Right.
And they've sacrificed, whether it's 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, and made a career out of it. We don't know we do know what they've seen. We personally don't know what they've seen, but once they say what they've seen, they need to get the help from that and what they've done.
Okay, Jesse, I think we're just about out of time here. So why don't you let all our viewers know how they can help you out, or connect with you in some way? I'm sure you have I saw your website out there.
Yeah, so Jesse Brown for Congress, that's our website, and also our Facebook page. That's the easiest way to get in contact with us. The biggest thing right now, we just need to get out the vote. We need to have as many people out there voting. So if you have friends, family, get our name out there, get Jesse Brown for Congress out there as much as possible. We do a lot of house parties. We'd love for you to have a house party. We hold in signs, standouts, the typical things what you do in a political campaign. The dirty word in this is donate. You always want to get as much money as you can so you can get your message out there and that we can win and that I can represent you the best possible way.
Thank you very much, Jesse.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you, Peter.
All right.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Republican Town Forum tonight. We got to learn a lot about the candidates and what they have concerns for, as well as learned tons about our beloved Christopher Columbus. So one more thing, I am the town registrar, so November 8th, please go out and vote. I want to see you there. I will be there. And thanks again, and have a good evening.